Congressman Pete Hoekstra, front runner for governor on the Republican side. Wonder where he's starting his day today. Maybe John Truscott knows from the Truscott group. He's been working with Congressman Hoekstra to get him elected. Good morning.
Good morning. He's starting the day in Grosse Pointe at the original Pancake House down there, and then working his way west towards Holland, where he'll end up tonight.
And what is the mood of the candidate at the moment? I would think it's a real nail-biter, according to the polls.
You know, it is a nail-biter. I've maintained all along that if we are close in the polls going into the final day or two, I truly believe we win just because of the intensity of the type of people that support Pete, the goodwill that's out there, and a lot of the people that don't, for example, he's been really supportive of homeschoolers over the years and helped them out with a lot of their issues. And a lot of homeschoolers don't pick up the phone when a pollster calls, but they turn out and vote, and they vote in big numbers. So I really think that there's this undercurrent. I wouldn't call them a silent majority, but it's kind of a silent group that's out there that really turns out in a big way, and they definitely do vote.
These two West Michigan congressional races that are going on right now, I would think are drawing a lot of interest from people because they are hotly contested, too. The polls I'm looking at right now show Jay Riemersma with 22% of the vote. That's a pretty big lead over Bill Cooper and Wayne Kuiper's there in that congressional race. And then in the race to replace Vern Ehlers, State Representative Justin Amash has a lead over Bill Hardiman and also Steve Heacock. But the race is really too close to call because the lead is slim.
Yeah, and we've maintained all along that those very tight congressional races, if they boost turnout, that definitely helps the Hoekstra for Governor campaign because they are people who have known Pete for 18 years. They've seen him on TV. He's been very familiar, and we've counted on that increased turnout the entire time and actually based our campaign plan on it.
How's Pete Hoekstra doing in Detroit? After all, he's known as a West Michigan person, and there were people when he decided to run who said, West Michigan guy, strange name. How's that going to play in Detroit?
Well, actually he's doing very well. A lot of the polling that I've seen in Oakland County has him carrying over 20% of the vote, which we had thought if we were in the 12 to 15% range, we'd be doing very, very good. When you go back and look at the fact we have more individual donors than any other campaign, we've actually, since January, raised more than any other campaign. Everybody says, oh, Pete can't raise money, he can't do this, can't do that. And every single time we've just taken those expectations and just shattered them. So, we feel really good about how we're doing. I think the Mike Cox scandal that reignited last week had to have an impact somehow, some way. And I know that Detroit media covered it heavily. Outstate media didn't cover it nearly as much. But, all of these things add up and have an impact in terms of how people feel about the candidates that they're looking at.
I heard that Attorney General Cox was so upset with that Detroit area television coverage of the so-called Manoogian Mansion party and scandal that he personally stormed right into the Channel 4 studios down there on Lafayette and with his campaign team and personally raised holy hell.
I heard that as well, and that it was quite an interesting evening with a lot of shouting and yelling. I know some people have said he behaved like a bully, and I think that was kind of the classic behavior that they were talking about there. There are some times during a campaign you just have to let certain things roll off your back, and certain times when you have to engage. And, when you look at the millions of dollars that the Cox campaign has spent against Pete Hoekstra on, I would call them outright lies. I mean, they went beyond misleading. They were absolutely lying about Pete's record. I really think this is probably one of the most negative, misleading campaigns I've seen in my career. And I think it will make it difficult that, for example, if Mike Cox were the nominee, I think it would be very difficult for Republicans to come together because his negative image is so high that a lot of Republicans would not come home and vote Republican if he were the nominee.
That's tough stuff there, and we were just with Joe DeSanto a few minutes ago. He said that when candidates start chipping about the process, chipping about the media coverage, and sort of complaining to the referee, that's when you know they're behind.
Well, I look at the fact that, they've spent, and Mike Cox has several independent third parties that are supposedly independent, but they're all his people running them and coordinating the message and the buys and everything. They've spent about $3 million in negative ads against Pete Hoekstra so far. And usually when a typical campaign ends on a positive note, he's got so many negative messages up there that I really think it's going to backfire and work against him because up to a point, you can be negative, you can draw the contrast. You get beyond that, and the voters say, wait a minute, this just isn't credible anymore, and I think that's the point that he's reached.
Can you draw any comparisons in the last 45 seconds that we have between Pete Hoekstra and John Engler?
I would certainly draw a comparison in terms of work ethic. I would, in terms of being attacked by your opponent in a very, very negative, I would say sleazy way. John Engler just kept working, and that's what Pete Hoekstra is doing, and he's stayed positive. We have not run one negative campaign. We have not tried to tear down an opponent. I really think that's what the voters are looking for. They're looking for somebody who will bring a solution to the table and fix Michigan, and that's what Pete Hoekstra is all about.
A quick fix, too, right? Can we get that?
I think there are a number of projects that could be approved within the first 4 to 5 months that I would predict a creation of probably 30 to 40,000 jobs in Michigan immediately.
Wow, we could use 30 to 40,000 jobs immediately if that's true. And if that's true, your lever is for Congressman Pete Hoekstra, according to John Truscott, who is working with him. He worked with Engler and Dick DeVos, too. More politics after the news. It's Michael Patrick Shields all across Michigan.